Hello and welcome to Bonus. For the gameplay this week, I've got something rather special. And by special, I mean unfinished and barely a game. It's my own game. It's Crush. Very simple game. It's a car arena game in which you have to crush little targets whilst avoid being crushed. It's based on an Amiga game that I wrote way back in the 90s sometime. Anyway, this is its current state. I haven't touched it since last summer, so it's been a while, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I could finish it off. Anyway, this is its current state, and I might show you an update video in the future, and maybe I'll turn it into a finished game. Or maybe I should put it on Steam Early Access, charge $20 for it, and once I get a few $1 million, take the money and run. Anyway, let's get on with the questions. Zymaru says, Stu, could you ever see yourself perusing a career in politics? Perhaps becoming President Brown or Prime Minister, or whichever one you have over there. I, for one, would vote Brown, but I'm an American. A career in politics? Oh, no. Holds no appeal for me whatsoever. It's more about pandering and demagogy than it is about affecting any actual real change. Unless I could be some sort of dictator, in which case I'd be all for that. And the best thing is you wouldn't even need to vote for me, because, I'd just install myself. Jason Nichols says, nice vid, but you need to wall run more. Colon P. Yes, talking about Titanfall, are we? So in the footage I recorded of Titanfall, both for the bonus last week and for the Prepare for Titanfall vid on my main channel, this was recorded quite early on in the beta. I started recording as soon as I got it, because I didn't really know how much time I'd have to record. And it turns out that maybe I should have, held off for a few hours and practiced on the wall running front, because the footage I got was kind of early on, and I wasn't really playing the game to its maximum potential. I will concede this point. Towards the end of the beta, I was, flipping from surface to surface, doing the old double jumps, and I was a lot more mobile with a bit of practice. But unfortunately, most of my recordings with the game are from the early boots on the ground period, where I was adjusting to it. So anyway, once the game's released, I'll be making an effort to be more exciting on the mobility front. I'll be trying to get as practice as I can. Revolutions 8D says, hey Stu, you're always saying you'll pick up games if they review well, but who or what do you rely on to find these reviews? Or what do you go off of? As far as games reviews are concerned, I don't really go off a single source. Like if Polygon were to give a game 9 out of 10, I don't know, I wouldn't rush out and buy it on that premise alone. I tend to take reviews with a pinch of salt, And I might look at stuff like Metacritic to get kind of an idea of how the game reviewed across the entire media, but even that composite score might not be enough to sell me on a certain game. More often, I'll look at stuff like YouTube and I'll actually watch gameplay videos to see how well it plays. It was a giant bomb quick look that sold me on Euro Truck Sim 2, for instance. You watch these videos, you think, hey, that looks pretty good fun. I might buy it, and then you do, and then you play it, and you do have fun. Mission accomplished. I think for a lot of major releases, though, you kind of buy into the hype early on. Like, there are certain games that I'll probably pick up even if they don't review that well, although it depends. The thing is, let's talk about Bungie's Destiny coming in September. This is a huge release. It's Bungie, they created Halo, they created Marathon, they've got a long track record of making extremely polished games, and, I'm fairly confident Destiny will be a very good game. But of course, we don't know yet. It hasn't been released, it hasn't been reviewed, we haven't appraised it. But with the state of games reviews today, I can't see that game, with all this hype, getting less than 8 out of 10. That's kind of the state of games journalism today. There's never any sort of real criticism of games. It's like, oh, okay, this is a hotly anticipated game. Better give it an 8, a 9, or a 10, depending on how good it is. But this is what happens when you take what is an interactive form of entertainment, something which can provide myriad experiences and different things to different players, and try and shoehorn it into a 1 to 10 scale. It doesn't really work, and review scores, for the most part, bunkum. So a 9 out of 10 for Destiny basically says, this game was as expected, whereas a 7 out of 10 says, this game was disappointing. Which is, of course, plainly absurd, because 7 is higher than the average score, which should be 5. So back to the question. When I say I'll wait to see if a game reviews well, really it's more about my own appraisal of the game and the gameplay videos that we see on YouTube, and less about actual reviews, because, they do serve a purpose, but the scores at the end are largely meaningless. Jay Verge says, pirated music, for or against? Be honest, not politically correct. After all, it does give someone a job and a steady flow of cash. And the developer doesn't get hurt too much. So, piracy. Now, you see, I'm a content creator. I create digital content. So I kind of have a vested interest in protecting my creative endeavors, you know? That being said, though, with the emergence of the internet and the free exchange of data, I think piracy was really inevitable on a large scale, and I think it's prompted a shift away from the traditional idea that you can box up a digital product and sell it for like $10 or something. I think the internet has prompted a substantial shift in the way that we value information. The 600 megabytes of information on a compact disc used to be incredibly valuable, to the point where we would happily pay $15. These days, though, not so much. 600 megabytes can be downloaded in minutes, seconds for some people. So how much is a bit worth today? It's, well, practically nil. And so the idea that you can sell bits, I think, it's outdated. It's an old way of looking at things. So as far as piracy is concerned, where people have the ability to download gigabytes at no sort of cost to themselves, of course, you can have people exchanging information that was once deemed to have intrinsic value. For a musician, for any sort of content creator, this is kind of a terrifying prospect. The bits that constitute your creative work have no value. So there's been this kind of need for a new model when it comes to distributing digital content. One not born of the value of the content, but of the convenience of delivery. So I guess the future is a little bit nebulous. We don't know quite how things are going to pan out, but it seems like it's going to be subscription-focused, ad-supported, possibly crowd-funded. That seems to be quite a fashionable way of giving money to people these days. And embracing some of the practices we're seeing in like free-to-play games, for instance, where you can get the basic content for free, but if you want the fancy stuff, you've got to pay a little bit extra. So, taking it back to the original question, piracy. Am I for it or against it? I am for piracy because, really, the freedom of transfer of information is a fundamental digital right. And to live in a world where you can't transfer a certain sequence of bits because it's copyrighted is pretty terrifying. And while you can't pretend like piracy is some sort of pious act, the freedom that underlies the ability to pirate stuff, I think, is a key digital liberty, and one that must be preserved. Vantage619 says, "Hey Stewie, do you feel the bonus videos are really different now that they aren't COD related anymore?" Well, the game in the background is different, that much is certain. Apart from that, though, it is exactly the same format. It's a little bit longer than the COD videos used to be. I mean, now you get a guaranteed 20 minutes as opposed to me stopping when I run out of footage. But apart from that, I promise you, it's exactly the same thing. Just me talking, answering your questions, you know. Reboy GTR says, "Hey Stu, do you feel like Titanfall is a bit overrated? Personally, I don't really like sci-fi, so I just think it all looks a little bit silly." It's funny, on every single Titanfall video, on every single Titanfall mention, there's always somebody who starts a comment with, "Am I the only one who doesn't think Titanfall looks that..." No, you're not the only one. It's on every single video. I've seen this comment hundreds of times, and it's fine. It's fine if you're not excited for Titanfall. Here's a confession for you. Dark Souls 2 is coming out on the same day. I'm not that excited for Dark Souls 2. I'm sure it'll be a swell game. I may even play it at some point. It's just that I don't really... I'm just not that excited for it, Different people are excited for different things, and that's all right. Now, as far as Titanfall being overrated is concerned, you know what? It probably is overrated. There has been a dearth of games for the next-gen consoles. There's nothing. We've got, We've got COD, we've got Battlefield, and that's pretty much it. People are hungry for something fresh, and Titanfall, although it's not the most original of games, it is just COD with parkour and mechs. It is nonetheless something new, and something which is reasonably well polished. It plays really nicely, the controls are slick, and playing the beta, it was a rush. It was fun. It was exciting. It's not a competitive FPS, it's as casual as they come. There are bots in multiplayer, for goodness sake, but it's fun. So yeah, it's overrated, no doubt about it, and you don't have to be interested, but I think for a lot of people, it's going to be a game that occupies the summer of 2014. Dark SDB Angel says, "Hey Stu, I've asked a question for 18 weeks now, but you have still not answered one. Anyway, do you plan on picking up the Elder Scrolls Online?" Now, I quite like the Elder Scrolls games, but I'm guarded on the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm not really thrilled with the concept of an MMORPG, if I'm honest. If I wanted to play World of Warcraft, I would. And the fact that it's $60 to buy it and then $15 or whatever it is a month to play it, no thank you. If they dropped the subscription, I might be more interested. If it was free to play, I might give it a whirl. As it stands though, I'm going to hold off, wait to see what the reception's like, maybe see if it's going to go free, and then I might try it. Bored Weasel says, "Hey Stu, what do you think of the Bioshock company, Irrational Games, closing down?" Oh yes, Ken Levine, the ego behind Bioshock Infinite, announced that, they're closing down, they're firing all but 15 of the staff, and they're going to focus on smaller scale, kind of indie-esque games. Kind of makes you wonder how this came to pass, like whose decision was it? Was it a corporate decision? Did Bioshock Infinite perform poorly? I mean, it sold a lot of copies, but it also took, 6 years to make? Was the game a poor return on investment? Did the DLC fail to deliver on its sales promises? I did find the DLC pretty disappointing, if I'm honest. You see, I kind of like Bioshock Infinite. It was okay. It was fun. It was an experience. It's a game that you really enjoy while you play it, but then you look back and you think, well, okay, the combat wasn't very good, but the setting was nice. It was, good to get away from the dank corridors of Rapture and instead into this bright and airy Columbia. It was interesting. I liked it. It was visually very pretty. So, as long as you overlook the crippling flaws, it was a pretty good game. So anyway, as far as Irrational Games shutting down, it's a bit of a shame for all of the devs involved, all of the devs who've lost their job, but I'm sure they'll find other positions relatively swiftly. And I guess I have a morbid curiosity as to what Ken Levine might be up to, whether he's got little indie gems planned for us or whether he's just gone full Molyneux. I guess we'll find out in another 6 years. Anthony Knight says, "Hey, how do you think the gunplay in Titanfall lives up to other AAA shooters such as COD and Battlefield? Is it smooth or does it feel sluggish? Also, have you watched Frozen?" I have not watched Frozen, no. As far as Titanfall's gunplay is concerned, it is pretty slick. I'd say maybe not quite as slick as COD, but it's certainly very close. It's definitely ahead of Battlefield, but then I don't really rate the gunplay in Battlefield. The feel of the guns in Battlefield is very, it feels muffled and sort of overtly heavy. It's not very satisfying. I mean, sure, there's more recoil in Battlefield and, I suppose it's more realistic, but realistic doth not satisfying gunplay make. Anyway, the movement in Titanfall, absolutely brilliant, unparalleled. The gunplay, pretty good, could be improved slightly, I feel. The guns are kind of fictional things, so they feel a little bit generic, but it's definitely good enough. Russ Diggity117 says, "Stu, have you ever been to church? I saw one of your bonus videos and I just want you to know that I'll love you either way. But could you at least try it? I'd love a theology rant." I have been to church, yes. Several times, in fact. I can't say I'd recommend it. I didn't really get much out of it. I would say, if you are thinking about signing up for religion, I'd definitely scout around, look for one with decent food, because, well, the church I went to, these horrible little wafer things, I wouldn't recommend them. Pretty tasteless. Still, there was wine, so it's not all downsides. As far as theology's one of those things, I should write it on my hand, shouldn't I? Do not talk about the following things: gender politics, religion, definitely don't mention Israel, alright? These 4 things, just don't talk about them. Citrus Star says, "Stu, have you seen anything about Harmonix's new game called Chroma? If so, what are your thoughts on fusing a class-based first-person shooter with a rhythm game?" It's a rather odd one. I suppose Harmonix are kind of invested on the whole rhythm game front, but for most of us, it's kind of a dead genre, really. Sadly, the era of Guitar Hero and Rock Band is apparently over, which is a shame because I actually quite like those games. So as for Chroma, I don't know. I guess it could be alright. It looks interesting. It's certainly an interesting experiment. I have actually signed up for the alpha, so I might give it a try when that comes about, if I get in. But honestly, I'm not sure if fusing 2 dead genres together into one is really a good recipe for stuff like that. I'm not sure. Maybe. Desh Tom says, "Stu, I have urgent information that requires an explanation. If you're straying away from Call of Duty, or for that case, a single game in general, what is going to happen to the April Fool's videos? They just wouldn't have enough value for being something random, since most of your videos will be random now." You're right, to stand out now, an April Fool's video needs to be more than just out of the usual. It has to be downright absurd. So I guess I might use April the 1st as a means to explore a slightly more unusual or off-the-wall idea that I might have. Or maybe I can start doing COD weapon guides for April Fool's Day. Maybe I'll do the handguns from Ghosts. That'd be a lark, wouldn't it? Lou933964 says, "I know you get these kind of questions quite often, but still, insurgency? Hot or not?" I bought this in the Steam sale and I played a little bit of it, and It kind of seems like they're gunning for the Counter-Strike audience, which is fine, but the trouble with the Counter-Strike audience is that they already have a game that they all play. So I don't know how successful Insurgency might be. I would be pessimistic about its success, but, well, I could be proved wrong. Mad Max says, Yo Stu, what's your TV size and how far back do you sit from it? Well, my main recording setup with my PS3, PS4, Xbox One, 360 and Wii U, I use a 24-inch PC monitor rather than a television. Only modestly sized, but I do sit relatively close to it, pretty much right next to it, about maybe 2 or 3 feet away. So, nothing too fancy, and having a smaller screen helps save on office space as well. For my PC, I've actually got slightly larger monitors. I've got two 30-inch monitors, which they're leviathans, take up an entire desk pretty much, but it's good for editing, it's good for graphics work to have a lot of real estate. The Extended Reach says, Hey Stu, do you plan on continuing to use Ahoy Xbox for just bonus videos, or would you ever start uploading other content? The basic rule of thumb is, if it's scripted, it goes on my main channel, if it's unscripted, it goes here. Now, I don't want to invest too much effort into unscripted content, because, I mean, everybody does unscripted content, everybody does Let's Plays and reactions and all that sort of stuff, and I'd rather be known for my, well, you know, my scripted content, my actual productions, because that's what I prefer doing. So I don't have any major plans for other content on this channel aside from the bonus, but any Let's Plays will end up on here, any sort of live stuff that I do will. Beyond that, I don't know, but if it takes any sort of serious degree of effort, then I'd sooner just put it on my main channel, because, you know, there's a larger audience on there. Hierophag says, Stu, YouTube has updated the layout again. I know quite a bit of people who dislike this new layout, but I took a liking to it. I feel that it's easier to navigate now. My question is, do you like this new layout, and do you think YouTube updates their layout too frequently? I don't really mind YouTube changes that much because, well, you know, YouTube has to keep with the times, which means they do have to update the site eventually. Sometimes I wish they would actually change stuff which benefits creators instead of, I don't know, like the Google Plus integration, which really only benefits Google. But I suppose there's not really much in the way of competition for YouTube at the minute. I mean, sure, there are some other sites, but, well, they just aren't as good. So as far as updates are concerned, I tend to take it on the chin, because what am I going to do? Up and leave, go to a different site? I can't take my audience with me, so yeah, I'm kind of stuck here, so like it or lump it. As long as I can upload videos and as long as my audience can watch them, that's normally good enough for me. Folk do love to complain though, you know, they move a button 2 inches, oh no, it's the end of the world, I can't click that, it's over there. But give it a few months, everything settles down and it's like the change never happened. I don't know about you, but if you look at YouTube from 2006, I'm glad the site has changed. It was awful back in 2006. Videos were 240p only, channel layouts were non-configurable and confusing, and there was a whole host of other stuff which people conveniently forget. No, Stu, change is bad, I don't know where the buttons are anymore, oh no. Kevin says, have you seen or heard about Twitch Plays Pokemon? Yes, I have. It's been popping up on Reddit quite frequently. There's a subreddit devoted to it and it filters into my feed. I've tuned into the stream a couple of times. Yeah, it's alright. It doesn't hold that much appeal for me, but I keep up on the major events as they unfold. Certainly a novel idea, even if it is quite frustrating to watch. Crash Oliver Latias says, have you ever played Alone in the Dark, Stu? If so, what is your take on it? Well, I have played video games solo with the lights off a few times. Oh, you mean the series? Alright, I gotcha. The Alone in the Dark series, I have played the first one, the one from 1994, from Infogrames. I rather liked it, I thought it was pretty spiffy. I never got very far in it, but I certainly replayed the first bit over and over again. There was also a remake of it that I played a few years ago. I didn't much care for that one, I thought it was pretty poor, if I'm honest. So yeah, not impressed with that one, but I did really like the original. Jordan X. Brooks says, hey Stu, will you be pre-ordering the new Wolfenstein? Not just to play the game, but the fact that you will gain access to the beta to Doom 4, which is apparently just named Doom. I'm kind of guarded on the new Wolfenstein. I bought the 2009 one, and I wasn't that impressed with it. I mean, it was okay, but it was mediocre, at best. So I'm holding off on critical response, and I haven't pre-ordered it, that's for sure. I don't have that much faith in Doom 4 either, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Doom 3 was alright, but that was years ago. So no, the promise of a beta for a game that I'm not excited about, not really enough to sell me on Wolfenstein. But I have certainly heard of the game, and I guess I'll be keeping an eye on it. It comes out at the end of May. Maybe I'll be done with Titanfall by then, who knows. Anyway, we are approaching the 20-minute mark, so I'll wrap it up. This week, I am revisiting the format that I tested out with the Minecraft video. It's a concept that I kind of loosely call Game DNA, and I might spin that into more of a series brand, I think. Anyway, it's about a certain FPS game that's right on the horizon, and yeah, we'll be looking at the history of mechs in games, and also stuff like parkour and free running. It's an excuse for me to dust off my copy of Brink, at any rate. Perhaps more interestingly, after that, I'm opening up my channel's production to the viewer's choice thingamabob. And if my calculations are correct, voting should be open right now, so I implore you to go and submit your ideas for videos and vote on other people's ideas, so we get the good stuff floating to the top. I'm still not 100% sure if this is a good idea or not, but I do have a certain morbid curiosity as to see how well it will work. And, you know, I get to see the sort of ideas that you guys wouldn't mind seeing in production. So there's that. It's useful on some fronts. Anyway, I shall wrap up this bonus now. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for putting up with my attempt at making a game in the background. And until next time, farewell.